Hello guys, welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be talking about Anime Vanguards, and we're going to talk about what is, in my opinion, the biggest problem in Anime Vanguards. This is going to give honest criticism about Anime Vanguards, and also I'm going to be praising basically some positive things that they do, and how they can make Anime Vanguards as a whole a lot better. So without further ado, let's get this video started. If you want to get shiny eagers just like me, then like and subscribe to this video to increase your chances and also to show your support to this channel. And without further ado, let's get this video started. Alright, so first and foremost, we're gonna start with some pretty honest praise and some things that Anime Vanguards has done. So we're gonna get to the good stuff before we move on to some of the stuff that, in my opinion, they did a little bit I think they did a little bit negatively or not as well as they could have. So first and foremost, we're gonna start with these very unique features that they have right here in the game, which is the collection. So essentially in collection, you can actually earn gems from basically evolving and getting units. So for example, right now I have Igris, and then I also have Igris Elite Knight. And then when I got these, I basically got a free 500 gems because they got added into my collection. So each new unit I get, I will get 500 gems, and then if I evolve that, I'm also going to get another 500 gems. And then also they have another very awesome feature that if you meet a new enemy, you can earn gems from that as well. So as you guys can see, I'm getting some gems from that, and here I'm not getting any gems because I've collected everything already. Alright, so now let's talk about some more stuff that they did well. So level milestones, I think, is also pretty good. I think this is very reminiscent of Genshin Impact. When I played Genshin Impact, this is actually like very similar to Genshin Impact. I think this is almost derived out of Genshin Impact almost, and it gives you a lot of free rewards. Okay, it gives you a lot of free rewards, and this is very important because later on we're gonna talk about something else that's also related to rewards. Okay, now in terms of the gameplay mechanics, let's actually talk about the gameplay mechanics. I think the passive system that they have introduced to the game, because each unit does have a passive that's actually pretty strong. So for example, Igris has these 3 passives, and these are all pretty strong passives that can really help you out in battle. And also the same for Song Jinwoo. He has a lot of passives as well that is pretty good in my opinion, that makes him a better unit. And then, for example, some of Igris's passives working in tandem with Song Jinwoo. So, for example, he has a passive that each shadow that enters his range will give him 20% damage and 20% range for 70 seconds. So, I think his passive works well with Song Jinwoo. So, this is essentially what I'm talking about, right? Like, their passives are working in tandem to basically kind of give them synergy. So, I think this is very unique. This is a pretty great feature, and this is very awesome in my opinion. More on gameplay, they also have pretty unique bosses. That the bosses actually have some pretty unique features that are pretty interesting. The bosses that they have in this game are pretty good. So those are very good. Those are some very good gameplay mechanics that they have. The bosses are pretty good in this game. They're pretty awesome. And then also we take a look at the models. Now let's move on, not from gameplay but models now. I think the models are very good. Okay, but I think they're too similar to the anime counterparts, which is why I made a video about this a couple of days ago, why they might be in danger for copyright reasons. Because if you take a look at this, it's actually very similar to the anime counterparts. So yeah, the models are good, but the problem is it's actually too similar in my opinion to the anime counterparts, which might put them in a little bit of a zone where they might actually get cooked eventually. But now let's move on to some of the things that, in my opinion, they could have done well, and there's only really a few of those things. The number one that I'm gonna talk about is some of the challenges are just low-key, like really impossible. Okay, like not impossible, like not too impossible, but some of them are like just really difficult, right? So I'm gonna remove Chahin right now and get my Naruto. Alright, so as you guys can see right here, this is where you're gonna see some of the gameplay faults in my opinion. I think the challenges are a little bit too difficult, especially for the new players. Now, they're not impossible, okay? But the challenges sure are like very, very, very difficult. Most of the challenges in my opinion are too difficult, and most people are not gonna have an easy time beating some of these challenges. So yeah, that's one of the faults that I've seen. Some of the challenges are just straight up unbalanced in my opinion. Some challenges are just way too difficult for their own good and are pretty much nearly impossible to do, because right now, for example, I have some pretty good units and this is gonna be very hard for me. Like, I'm probably gonna lose, or if not lose, I'm gonna struggle super hard. Now, difficulty is pretty good in games, but sometimes if it's a little bit too done, like if it's a little bit too difficult, there are some problems with that as well. So they have to find this right balance where challenges are going to be difficult enough but not too difficult where the majority of people are going to have a hard time beating them. Not only challenges but also the other story maps, like the desert story map. Some people are actually finding that very difficult as well, and I do agree it is kind of difficult. The second story map is actually kind of difficult. And as you guys can see right there, I tried my best. Like, I placed all my best units, but I still got cooked in Planet Namak, right? I still got cooked. Now, some of you guys might actually say it's skill issue, but I think it's not skill issue. I think it's just genuinely like such a very difficult game mode, to the point where to some degree it is very unfair for most people, because if I can't do it with my units, most people probably won't be able to do it, right? And then my next complaint, this is going to be the second complaint, and perhaps the last complaint, the last real complaint I have about Anime Vanguards, it's that there's actually no way to farm trait crystals in this game. Now, I did make a video about farming trait crystals, because you can technically farm trait crystals, but it's not repeatable farms, right? So once you've gotten the first 100 trait crystals that the game actually gives you, because level milestones give you a lot of trait crystals, okay? The battle pass gives you a lot of trait crystals, and then the quests give you a lot of trait crystals. Challenges sometimes gives you trait crystals. Completing nightmare mode and even paragon mode gives you a lot of trait crystals, right? But the thing with this game is the problem that I'm seeing with this game, because I personally have spent like over 300 to 400 trait crystals already, and I haven't gotten a single monarch yet. The rarest I've gotten is Deadeye. It's actually kind of pay to win. Okay, it's actually a little bit too pay to win in my opinion. Now, you can get lucky, you know, and get monarch on your traits and get monarch on your units. You can do that. But since there's not really that any ways to farm trait crystals consistently, if you do spend up all your trait crystals that you can get from the game and you get nothing good, that's basically it, right? There's nothing left for you to do other than spend money or wait for codes that you can use to spin on your units. Like, for example, Anime Last Stand does give out a lot of trait crystals as well. I don't think it should be as easy as in Anime Last Stand, because I think Anime Last Stand gives out too much trait crystals. Nor should it be like AnimeDefenders that gives like too much trait crystals as well, where everybody's walking around with Almighty. I think they should add a game mode where you can get trait crystals, you can farm it consistently, but you can't get too much without farming a long time as well. So maybe a game mode where you can get trait crystals, like there's a 10% chance of getting trait crystals. So if you really want to get trait crystals, you're gonna farm that consistently, because by doing that, it will reward people that are actually farming the game instead of people that are just paying, right? So they do not need to make trait crystals common, and they should not make trait crystals common. They should make trait crystals rare. They should make monarch rare, but they should at least add ways for people to consistently farm trait crystals. I think that's the number one complaint I have for the game right now. One thing I have to give them credit for though is Monarch in this game is only a 300% buff. Essentially what that means is, since Monarch is only a 300% buff, in infinite game modes where most of the units are 3 placement, you're probably better off not getting Monarch on them. For example, Naruto Sage is a 4 placement unit. If you upgrade all 4 of them, that's 400%, or that's 4 of them doing damage, okay? That means Naruto Sage with Monarch is actually gonna reduce his DPS by a lot, right? And the same goes for all these other units right here, especially for Chahai-In. If you get Monarch on Chahai-In, you're cooked, because you're gonna have way less DPS in Infinite. It's not gonna be that bad, but it's not gonna be as good. So this is actually pretty good, because even though there's not that many ways to get trait crystals, the number 1 trait in the game, Monarch, isn't actually insanely overpowered to where it's impossible to basically catch up with them, right? Can you believe it though? There's actually only really 2 complaints right now that I have for the game. That's number 1, that some of the game modes are a little bit too hard, and number 2 is the traits are super impossible to get after you've spent the ones that they've originally given you, thus the game being a little bit too pay to win. There's actually only 2 negatives that I can think of in this game, and there's a lot of positives about this game that I think are amazing. There's a lot of unique gameplay features in this game that are actually pretty good. But yeah, those 2 complaints are the biggest complaints that I have right now for Anime Vanguards, and eventually, because I have talked to some of the developers, eventually there will be ways to get trait crystals, and this is why I'm also making this video, to kind of share my voice to the community, to the developers, so that somehow maybe they can implement some of these changes to the game to not only be better for the community but also to be better for the game itself. That's gonna be it for today's video, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, then please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.